Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing great. Today with me, teacher Lirenz, I'm gonna give you some phrases that you can use for presentation in English. Halo semua, hari ini dengan saya teacher Lirenz, saya akan memberikan phrases yang digunakan untuk presentasi dalam bahasa Inggris. Okay, let's check it out. Formal introduction. Good morning everyone. For those who don't know me, my name's Lily, and I work in the marketing department. Hello everybody. Before we begin, let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Lily, and I'm the head of HR. Hi guys, if you don't know me, I'm Lily, and I work in digital marketing. This is for the informal introduction. Hello, I see some new faces, so I'll introduce myself first. I'm Lily, and I'm one of our customer service team. So this one is for the formal and this one for the informal. Jadi ini adalah introduction, perkenalan secara formal dan tidak formal. And usually we use this introduction if we meet someone new. Kalau kita bertemu dengan orang yang baru kita menggunakan introduction. Good morning or good afternoon everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome the president here. I'm the director of. By the end of the talk or presentation or session, you'll know how to. You will have learned about. Okay, so ini juga introduction. We give greetings. Kita memberikan ucapan pagi atau selamat siang. It's a pleasure to welcome. Senang menyambut presiden siapa, misalkan. I'm the president of, for example, saya adalah I'm the director of, saya adalah director marketing, misalkan. I'm the director of marketing, for example. I'm Lily, the director of marketing. By the end of the talk, pada akhir pembicaraan atau pada akhir presentasi, atau pada akhir session, Anda akan mengetahui atau Anda akan mempelajari tentang bla bla bla. Now, more introduction. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. Selamat pagi atau siang semuanya. Selamat datang di presentasi saya. First of all, pertama-tama, saya ingin berterima kasih pada semuanya yang sudah datang pada hari ini. Let me start by saying a few words about my own background. Biarkan saya memulai sedikit tentang background saya. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is, seperti yang tertera di layar, topik kita hari ini adalah, my talk is particularly relevant to those of you who, pembahasan saya relevan tepatnya pada mereka yang, this talk is designed to act as a springboard for discussion. Pembicaraan ini didesain atau dikhususkan, diperuntukkan sebagai landasan atau pembahasan diskusi kita. This morning or afternoon, I'm going to take a look at the recent development in. Pagi atau siang ini, saya akan memperlihatkan perkembangan terbaru akan apa. Introducing the presentation topic. Memperkenalkan topik presentasinya. I plan to say a few words about. I'm going to talk about The subject of my talk is, so you may choose one of this. Anda boleh memilih salah satu dari ini. Saya berencana untuk memberitahukan tentang apa. I'm going to talk about this. Pokoknya semua inti adalah memperkenalkan topiknya apa. For example, today I'm going to be talking about our new HR policies and how they affect you. I'd like to talk to you today about quality control and why we are all responsible for quality control, whichever department you work in. Introducing your topic. This is the phrases that you can memorize, okay? I'll begin by, and then I'll, finally, I'll, or you can choose another one. First of all, I'll continue by, to finish, and I'll. This is the first example for this one. Ini adalah salah satu yang kamu boleh pilih untuk memperkenalkan topik. Okay, contohnya adalah today I'm going to be talking about our new HR policies and how they affect you. I'll begin by outlining the policies, and then I'll go on to highlight what they mean for you and your working habits. Finally, I'll briefly discuss why we feel these new policies are necessary and beneficial for us all. Okay, now the second sample for this one. I'd like to talk to you today about quality control and why we're all responsible for quality control, whichever department you work in. First of all, I'll explain why quality control has a broader meaning than you might expect. I'll continue by giving examples of real quality control and why this matters for all of us. To finish, I'll be asking you to think of ways you can incorporate quality control into your working habits. Presentation structure. In my presentation, I'll focus on 3 major issues. This presentation is structured as follows. The subject can be looked at under the following headings. We can break this area down into the following fields. The outline. My talk will be in 3 parts. In the first part, then in the second part, finally, I'll go on to talk about. So you want to explain the outline of the presentation. Jadi kita memberitakan kepada audiens tentang presentasi kita. Oh, kita akan membicarakan dalam 3 bagian misalkan. Bagian pertama tentang apa, kedua tentang apa, dan akhirnya tentang apa. Timing, it will take about, for example, 10 minutes. It will take about 10 minutes to cover these issues. Okay, usually we want to give handouts to the participants. Biasanya kita memberikan handouts kepada participants yang mengikuti meeting. We can say, does everybody have a handout or copy of my report? I'll be handing out copies of the slides at the end of my talk. I can email the PowerPoint presentation to anyone who would like it. Don't worry about taking notes. I've put all the relevant statistics on handouts for you. Questions. Please interrupt if you have any questions. Silakan menghentikan saya ketika Anda punya pertanyaan. After my talk, there will be time for a discussion and any questions. Nanti setelah pembicaraan saya, nanti akan ada waktu untuk discussion, tanya jawab. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Jika ada pertanyaan, saya bersedia menjawab ya. Dengan senang hati saya menjawabnya. If you don't mind, I'd like to leave questions until the end of my talk, or there will be time for a Q&A session at the end. Jika Anda tidak keberatan, saya akan memberikan waktu untuk tanya jawab pada akhir sesinya. Okay? Sequencing phrases. My first point concerns, first of all, I'd like to give you an overview of. Next, I'll focus on, and then we'll consider. Then I'll go on to highlight what I see as the main points of. Finally, I'd like to address the problem of. Finally, I'd like to raise briefly the issue of. Highlighting information. Kita mau menegaskan informasi. I'd like to put the situation into some kind of perspective. I'd like to discuss in more depth the implication of. I'd like to make more detailed recommendations regarding. I'd like you to think about the significance of this figure here. Whichever way you look at it, the underlying trend is clear. Main body. Now that you have finished the introduction, we now need to transition to the main body and its individual parts in a smooth way. There are three parts of the main body of a presentation where linking phrases can be used. Beginning the main body, ending parts within the main body, and beginning a new part. Here are some phrases which you can use for these parts. Beginning the main body. Now let's move to or turn to the first part of my talk, which is about. So first, to begin with, ending parts within the main body. That completes or concludes. Ini menyimpulkan, kesimpulannya adalah, that's all I want to say for now on. Okay, I've explained how. Beginning a new part. Let's move to the next part, which is. So now we come to the next point, which is. Now I want to describe. I'd now like to change direction to talk about. Let's turn to the next issue. Listing and sequencing. If in your English presentation, you need to talk about goals, challenges, and strategies, listing phrases can help link this together and improve the flow of your speech. If you have to explain processes, sequencing phrases are helpful. Okay, how about the listing? There are three things to consider. First, second, third. There are two kinds of. The first is. The second is. We can see 4 advantages and 2 disadvantages. First advantages. One is. Another is. The third advantage is. Finally, sequencing. There are 4, for example, 4. There are 4 different stages to the process. first, then, next, after that, then, after, there's why. There are 2 steps involved. The first step is, the second step is, there are 4 stages to the project. At the beginning, later, then, finally. I'll describe the development of the idea. First, the background, then the present situation, and then the prospect for the future. Ending. After you have presented the main body of your English presentation, you will want to end it smoothly. Here are typical section transitioning from the main body to the ending of the presentation, and then inviting the audience to ask questions. Ending the main body. Okay, that ends the third part of my talk, for example. That's all I want to say for now on the 2017 results. For example, you are reading the data of 2017. Beginning the summary or and conclusion. To sum up, okay, in brief, there are several advantages and disadvantages. To conclude, I'd like to end by emphasizing the main points. I'd like to end with a summary of the main points. Concluding, I think we have seen that we should, in my opinion, we should, I recommend or suggest that there are 3 reasons why I recommend this. First, second, finally, an ending phrase. Well, I've covered the points that I need to present today. That sums up my description of the new model. That concludes my talk for today. Inviting questions and or introducing discussion. Now we have half an hour for questions and discussion. Sekarang kita punya setengah jam untuk tanya jawab. So now I'd be very interested to hear your comments. Saya mau mendengarkan komen Anda. Thanking the audience. Berterima kasih pada audience. I'd like to thank you for taking time out to listen to my presentation. Thank you for listening, or thank you for your attention. Many thanks for coming. Conclusion. Linking phrases are like the skeleton which holds your presentation together. Not only do they improve the flow and help guide the audience by memorizing them, they can also help you remember the general structure of your presentation, giving you increased confidence. To help you memorize, I recommend saying the linking phrases on their own from the beginning to the end of your presentation while you practice. I also suggest memorizing the introduction word by word. By doing this, you will get off to a great start, which will settle your nerve and transmit a positive first impression. You can also use some quotes from a scientist or politician or author or anyone that is very famous. For example, I'd just like to finish with the words of a famous scientist or politician or author. Now, let's go out and create opportunities for signposting language. Next, I'd like to talk about, let's move on and discuss At this point, I'd like to turn to signposting language, another one. Let me go into some more detail about. Let's examine in more depth. I'd like to elaborate on. To wrap up, let's remind ourselves of why this should matter to everyone here. Let's review the key points from this session. So you've heard what I have to say. What conclusions can you take away from this? How to deal with problems. Sometimes we need to use filler phrases. Saat kita ada sedikit masalah, kita bisa menggunakan filler phrases, kata-kata seperti ini untuk mengisi. Misal kita kelupaan atau ada salah pengucapan, ini caranya. Problemnya kita selesaikan seperti ini. Where was I? So, what was I saying? What was I saying? Tadi saya ngomong apa ya? Gitu. What's the word in English again? Tadi Inggrisnya apa ya? If you have mistakes and make the clarification. Let me rephrase that. Actually, what I meant to say is, sebenarnya saya mau maksudkan adalah, to clarify, I wanted to say that, untuk menjelaskan, saya maksudnya seperti ini. So it sounds more professional when you make mistakes, and with these phrases, it sounds more professional. Dengan menggunakan kata-kata seperti ini akan terdengar lebih profesional walaupun ada kesalahan. Adding something you forgot. Let me just add one more thing. I'd like to add something to a point we discussed earlier. Let me return to an earlier point briefly. Delay answering. I've allocated time for questions at the end of this session, so we'll address your idea later. I'm not in a position to answer that right now, but I'll get back to you later this week. Kamu mau menjawabnya, ditunda dulu. So we use these phrases. Sorry, we use these sentences. Deflect the question. That's an interesting question. Before I answer, I'd like to know, what's your take on this? Pertanyaan yang menarik. Sebelum saya jawab, saya pengen tahu nih, menurut Anda seperti apa? You've raised an important point there. What does everyone else think about this? Anda memberikan poin penting. Bagaimana pendapat yang lain tentang ini? Dismiss the question. Thanks for your input, but I don't see how that's connected to what I'm saying. Terima kasih atas inputnya, tapi saya nggak melihat koneksinya terhadap apa yang saya katakan. Nggak melihat ada hubungannya, nggak ada koneksinya. I don't mean to be blunt, but I don't think that's relevant to today's discussion. Saya nggak bermaksud kurang ajar atau nggak bermaksud kasar, tapi saya nggak melihat relevansinya terhadap diskusi hari ini. So these are all the glossaries. Rhetorical of a question, asked in order to produce an effect or to make a statement rather than to elicit information. Audience, spectators or listeners at a public event such as a play, film, concert, or meeting. Effective, successful in producing a desired or intended result. Springboard. Springboard is also something that provides an opportunity to achieve something. Handout. A document given to students or reporters that contains information about a particular subject. Q&A, an abbreviation for question and answer. Thank you for listening. I hope this can help you out in your English presentation. Okay, if you want to have any questions, drop a comment below. And if you like, and if this video helped you in your presentation, give a thumbs up and feel free to share to everyone. Hope it helps for the others too. And subscribe to my channel. See you later. Have a good day. Bye. Keep safe.